Hey guys, it's Payne here. Today I wanted to share with you the great experience that I had the opportunity to do in France, in Nantes, at the University of Nantes, where they're conducting research and doing some experiments to figure out if there's any type of damage that we can cause to our body by developing ankle technique or swivel technique approaches on the drums. Aurélie is a research engineer at the University of Nantes, and she also happened to play drums in her life, and so she combined the two things to find out through the amazing gear that they have at their laboratories in the University of Nantes to get as much data as possible to see if with the ankle technique, with the swivel technique, with feed technique that requires us to go very fast, that requires to activate and deactivate the muscles very quickly. If there's any musculoskeletal disorder that we can cause, so if there's any damage that we can cause to our body. For me, it was amazing to have the opportunity to see all these ideas and all this information that I was feeling in my body, and then I was seeing from all my students and all the people that I've worked with in these 15 years. I will share with you in this video what we went through to the experiment, and then I will do a second part of this video when I will have the results of my experiments, and will share what this data is showing us. So what part of my back, what part of my legs, what part of my ankles, my feet, and all of these things. If there's anything that we're forcing, if there's some correlation between activation, deactivation of the muscles. There's going to be a lot of data that will be very interesting. So the very first thing that I've been shown was how we could put sensors to literally observe the muscle like underneath the skin, so like an internal view of the calf muscle, so that we can see what happens like from the moment where we start to play drums, activate ankles, and see how much the calf is involved, and all of these things. So basically what we see here, it's there's a layer of skin, there's a layer of fat, and then there's the muscle, and you can also see the vein in the middle of the muscle. So it's really like a really internal vision of whatever is happening. So this is the detail, like the accuracy with which they can do this experiment. Like you can literally see the muscle moving as we were doing the experiment, and throughout the experiment you could see the vein that was starting to getting bigger and pumping more blood because I was getting warmed up, so you could see more blood flowing in that area of the body. Unfortunately, we couldn't have two sensors, one in the calf and one in the shin, but we can see that data on the screen. So not like from an internal vision as with this sensor, as we're seeing in this part of the video, but still, like the data would show, will show how much the calf is being involved. So after this part, we measured the propagation delay of the signals between my soleus muscle and my spinal cord. So the first thing that we've done was putting all this sensor on my body that would take all the data, like the muscle activation and to make sure to find out what part of the body was being activated and deactivated in what part of like the warm-ups or as I was playing. And so the first thing was basically testing the reaction of both my right and left leg, sending a little electric input to my leg, and that it's a data that they take so that they can see how fast is the signal from when is sent from the machine, the electric signal is sent from the machine, how fast the signal goes in my spinal cord, and this will be something that they will keep as to compare to when I will be playing on the pedal. So for example, if it took 20 milliseconds for me to instinctively do this motion, and then on the drums I'm working at 12 milliseconds, the activation and deactivation of the muscles while I'm using the ankle technique, it means that I'm very close, or I might be further or closer to the limit of the signal that they got instinctively. So it's a data that they need to have as a reference so that they compare my involuntary motions to my voluntary motions. Then the second part has been measuring my muscle activation during maximal voluntary isometric contractions of leg and trunk muscles, which means basically I would be contracting my muscles, a certain part of my muscles, as much as possible, and I would also take this data to see what's my maximal contraction. Then the third part has been measuring the muscle activations, joints, amplitudes, and the movement of the soleus muscle fascicles during the ankle technique, which basically means me sitting on the pedals and starting to work on ankle technique, like using my ankle technique approach. We started with the vertical ankle technique, typical heel up, and we've pushed that as much as possible. So the way I work, I always want my body and my muscles to be relaxed. And so we started at a comfortable speed, and then what they wanted to see was pushing me out of my comfort zone so that I would start forcing my muscles a little bit more so that they can get the data to see what happens when I'm starting to contract the ankles, if there's any other part of the body that I'm contracting, if there's like the back is contracting and stuff like that, so that they can see like also how much we're forcing our body and how much damage and how dangerous that can be. So here we started from a comfortable BPM, which if I recall correctly was around 180 BPMs. We started with 180 BPMs and we went all the way to 280 BPMs. Certain parts were challenging because I had the sensor on one of the legs, one of the calves, and so as I started to go a little bit more into swivel, that was working a little bit against my motion, but we still managed to get a lot of great data. So to wrap this video up, what we did was basically taking data from involuntary muscle motions and activations and maximum contractions, so of certain parts of my body like the back, my hip flexor, the calves and other parts of the body, so that we can then compare that data to when I was playing on drums, like doing heel up and swivel motions. Of course, I already know some of this data because I had to ask and I had to check, but I will keep all the data as I get all the results, so that we can literally see together what happens in my body while I'm playing drums. So it's very important because this will allow us to understand if we're going to injure ourselves by using these techniques, if there's a better way, more ergonomic and more efficient way of doing certain motions that will not damage us in the long run. So that's why I'm very excited for this. I will wait you for the second part of the video, and where we can go through the data and see what happens and have answers to a lot of the questions that I think still today they're not very clear on the internet. Hopefully this will not stop at only the ankle research, but also we'll go in the posture, we'll go in the hands, it will expand. So to make that happen, of course, go and follow the guys at Drum Biomech, support the project, share it around. Let's spread the word so that there's going to be more attention and more, of course, possibility to do more of these researches. We have a great opportunity, so it's very important that we take advantage of this. I'll see you in the next video.